Hello everyone and welcome to another Everything IELTS video. In this video, I am going to walk through the IELTS speaking test with you, okay? Everything you want to know about the IELTS speaking section will be in this video. This video may be a bit long because I want to cover everything about the speaking test. A lot of students tell me the speaking test is the most difficult. They're nervous about it. They don't know what to say. They don't have any ideas. So in this video, we will walk through exactly what you will do on the IELTS speaking section. If there's anything you want to know, I hope to answer it in this video. If I don't answer it in this video, please ask me in the comments, and I can probably answer you there. All right, let's hop on over. Let's go over to my PowerPoint. There we go. We are on the speaking section. All right, so here's, if you don't know anything, about IELTS, you should know that it's face-to-face with an examiner. You will go to a British Council office or an IDP office, and you will take the test in a room with an examiner. At the time I'm making this video, British Council is thinking about doing this on Zoom or another online platform. So in the future, in 2022, there might be online exams, speaking exams, okay? But not yet. That might be coming soon, just so you know. But it is face-to-face with an examiner. The exam lasts, it's short, it's very short, only 14 minutes maximum, 11 minutes minimum. A lot of students ask, well, why sometimes 11, why sometimes 14 minutes? If you finish the whole speaking test in 11 minutes, that means you were not giving long enough answers, you were not giving enough information, your answers were too short, and so you finished early. 14 minutes is if you speak as much as the examiner lets you speak. 14 minutes is maximum. The exam has 3 parts. We will see these parts right now, okay? So 14 minutes, 3 parts. So let's look at these parts and see what they are. Part 1, it's called Questions on Familiar Topics. Do you see right here? This says 4 to 5 minutes. Right there, boom, 4 to 5. It should not be 4 minutes, like I said before. It should be 5 minutes. If you finish in 4 minutes, that means you did not give enough information with your answers. Okay, so if you finish at 4 minutes, the examiner will continue to part 2. The examiner has 12 questions, only 12 questions to ask you. If you finish all of those questions, they're gone. The examiner cannot make more to ask you more questions. They're gone. So the examiner will go to part 2. But, and this is something not many people know, the examiner cannot continue to part 2 until 4 minutes. So what happens if you finish everything in 3 minutes? What happens if you finish in 3 minutes? That means the examiner cannot continue to part 2 yet. There will be 1 minute of silence. Awkward, uncomfortable silence when you are looking into the examiner's eyes and the examiner is looking into your eyes and you can't say anything because there's no more questions. So you need to give long enough answers, okay? Part 2, then you'll go to part 2. And don't worry about the topics there. We will talk more about those topics in a minute. Part 2, you will speak from, oh, look at this, 1 to 2 minutes. 1 to 2 minutes on a given topic. So the examiner is going to hand you a topic card, a piece of paper with a card. There's one topic. You will prepare that. You have 1 minute to prepare, and then you will speak. Oh, look, it says 1 to 2 minutes. So how long do I speak? Do I speak for 1 minute or do I speak for 2 minutes? Again, you should not be speaking for 1 minute. You should be speaking for 2 minutes. How do you know when 2 minutes is finished? The examiner will say, thank you, you can stop talking, okay? Thank you, you can stop. But you do get 1 minute to prepare. And when you prepare, you're going to write some notes. The examiner gives you that pencil and paper. You write some notes. And then you go to part 3. Part 3, ooh, look at this. It's related to the topic in part 2. It's the same topic, but there's something very different. Part 2, you'll speak alone about that topic, right? The examiner gives you a topic and you speak alone for 2 minutes. Part 3 is different. Part 3 is questions and answers about the same topic. So as an example, maybe in part 2, I had to talk about a museum or art gallery that I visited. I'll talk about, I went to the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. I saw many things, blah, 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 blah. Now, part 3, the examiner is going to ask you questions about art, museums, and things like that. So maybe a question like, do you think art museums are useful for society? Difficult questions, right? Look, it says questions about abstract and complex issues. These are more difficult questions. And look here again, it says 4 minutes to 5 minutes. So which one do I speak? How long do I speak for? 5 minutes. It should be 5 minutes. There are a limited number of questions. The examiner cannot make up more questions to help you. All right. So let's take a step back. That was a quick overview of everything. 3 parts, right? Part 1, part 2, part 3. You're finished. You go home. Let's take a step back and go into a little bit more detail here. So the test, you'll walk into the room and the examiner is going to ask you your name and for your ID. You must have your ID. A passport is okay, maybe a national ID. You have to use the ID that you registered to take the exam, okay? Same ID. But the test will begin with the following. This is a script, and the examiner is going to say this. This is the speaking test for the International English Language Testing System, conducted on October 14th at the IDP Center in Ho Chi Minh City. The candidate is John Doe, candidate number 12345, and the examiner is Mr. Stephen Happel. Okay, so the examiner is going to say this, and then you will begin part 1. Familiar topics they are called. Again, this is 4 to 5 minutes. It should not be 4 minutes. That's bad news. If you're taking 4 minutes, that's bad news. Let me scribble that out. It should be 5 minutes. 3 sets of 4 questions, okay? You are going to get questions about work or school. I can promise you. Are you a student or are you working? Where are you working? What's your job? Are you a student? Where do you study? Okay, you'll get questions about that, and then you're going to get 2 other topics, but 12 questions total, and these are some of the topics that you might get. Some example topics here. Nothing crazy difficult, okay, nothing too crazy. Now, there might be some topics that you don't like. For example, if you look over here, shopping. I don't like shopping. I hate shopping. If this is one of the topics, I get 4 questions about shopping. Well, that's okay. I mean, I don't like shopping, but I could still talk about it. In fact, I can talk about how much I hate shopping. I hate shopping. It's something I wish did not exist. I think it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. I don't like going shopping. You can be truthful. You can say that. Or you can lie. You can make up things. The examiner doesn't care. The examiner only cares about one thing, your English, okay? So you can say anything you like. But these topics are not crazy difficult. They're things we talk about every day. Some advice for you. You should answer that question that you are asked. Some students try to memorize answers before the test, and the answers often, they're not connected to the question. Your answer must come directly to the question, okay? You have to answer that question. Give reasons, examples, and details. You need to always make sure you're giving more information, you're giving your reasons, you're giving your details. Let me give you an example of this. The examiner asks you, Mr. Stephen, do you like shopping? And I say no. Is that a good answer? No, that's not a good answer. I gave 1 word. That was a 1-word answer. That is not good. That is not good enough. How about no, I don't like shopping? That's not a good answer. What is the next question the examiner will ask me? If I answer no, I don't like shopping, what is the next question you think the examiner will ask? Of course, why? Why do you not like shopping? The examiner doesn't need to ask me that question. I should always give the reason. Automatically, always do it. Do you like shopping, Mr. Stephen? No, I hate shopping. I don't like it at all. I think it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my money. There are many things I would rather do than go shopping. Okay, always include that. And you should ask the meaning of a word if you don't understand the word. On part 1, if there is a question with a word you do not understand, you can ask about the meaning of that word. Okay? For example, maybe the examiner asks you, is physical education mandatory at your school? Is physical education mandatory at your school? Okay, mandatory. I don't know the word mandatory. What does that mean, mandatory? I could try to guess what it is, but I don't need to do that. I will ask the examiner, excuse me, what does mandatory mean? Your examiner will help you with that word. They will not change the question. They'll not rephrase the question for you, but they will help you understand that word, okay? So just ask. If you do not hear the question, oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that question? That's okay. Right there. If you didn't hear the question, just ask. You can't give memorized answers. The examiner will know if you tried to memorize an answer at home and you're answering it, you're giving that answer now. Don't give short answers, and don't ask the examiner questions. Again, there's only one kind of question you can ask the examiner. What does this word mean? Or can you repeat that, please? That's the only kind of question you can ask. And then we're going to go to part 2, right? This will be questions and answers for 5 minutes, and then you will go to part 2. Again, the examiner is going to give you a card. It's called a task card or a topic card. It's a piece of paper. And the examiner will give you a pencil and paper too. So the pencil and paper is for taking notes. Now, the topics are always, it's usually about people, places, events, or things, right? It could be about a person. Who's your hero? Who is your favorite teacher? Talk about him or her. It could be about a place. What's the most beautiful place you've ever visited? Tell me about your hometown. It could be about a thing. Talk about an electronic device you use every day. It could be about an event. Talk about a sporting event that you went to or that you saw. It's usually about nouns. It's usually about people, places, and things. Again, you have 1 minute to prepare. What do you do? What do you do to prepare? You write down some ideas, some notes, some key things to help you. And then you'll speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Ooh, there's that 1 to 2 minutes again. Let me cross that out. You should not be speaking for only 1 minute. You should be speaking for 2 minutes until the examiner says, thank you. Oops. Thank you. You can stop, okay? There will be 1 or 2, rounding off questions. What does that mean, a rounding off question? What is a rounding off question? It's not part 3 yet, okay, not yet. The examiner will ask you 1 or 2 questions about your response in task 2. So maybe the topic is, talk about the last vacation you had. And you answer, oh, my last vacation, I went to Nha Trang with my family. We had a beautiful time. It was great. We ate a lot of seafood, blah, 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 blah. I'm finished. The examiner finishes, tells me to stop at 2 minutes. And then he will ask me, or she will ask me, would you like to go back to Nha Trang? And then I will say, yes, I would love to go back. It was great. You don't have to give a long answer here, just a short answer. That's okay. Ooh, here is an example. There's a topic card there. The best vacation you've ever had. Let me erase my notes that I wrote there. So you can read that. Describe the best vacation you've ever had. This is a topic card. This is exactly what the topic card looks like. You should say where you went, who you went with, what you saw or did there, and say what you remember about it. Now, I want you to notice some things here. You have these little notes over here, where, who, what, and say what you remember. This is to help you. This is the topic card, and this is to help you. This is not a rule that you have to mention where you went, who you went with, what you saw or did there. This is to help you. It's not a rule that you have to talk about each one of these things, okay? A lot of people think it's a rule that you have to talk about each one. It's not. The only rule, and this is a little secret, is that you have to stay on topic. That's the rule. You have to stay on topic. You have to be talking about the best vacation, but there's a lot of things you can talk about, and you do not have to mention each one of these, okay? So some advice for part 2. This is called the long turn because you'll speak for a long time, for 2 minutes. You should take notes. You have that 1 minute to help you prepare. Use that 1 minute. Write down some key ideas, some words, but never sentences. It takes too long. Use the task card for ideas to help you. Again, if you're not sure what to talk about, make something up. Use your imagination. The examiner won't know, and if he or she does know, he won't care, she won't care. okay? You do not get marked on your ideas. You do not get marked on your experience, your life skills. You don't get marked on that. You get marked on your English. You should never again give memorized answers. You shouldn't go off topic. Remember, that was the only rule. You have to keep talking about that topic, but you can't ask the examiner questions again. This is the time for you to talk and show off your English. And now you will go to part 3. Again, what was the topic in part 3? Same as part 2, right? So part 2, we talked about vacation and holidays. Part 3 will be about this too. This is a discussion. It's about abstract or general questions related to part 2. Part 2, you're talking about yourself. You're talking about your life, your experience. Part 3, you're not talking about that anymore. It's more general, okay? You're talking about other people. Let me write that down. You're talking about other people. You're not talking about yourself anymore. You're giving your opinion, but you're not talking about what you did last week or last holiday. This lasts 4 to 5 minutes. Again, there we go, 4 minutes. It should not be 4 minutes. It should be 5 minutes, okay? Here's an example of some questions. Remember, part 2 was about holidays. Now part 3 is about holidays. Is tourism generally good or bad for a country? Do you think companies should give employees more holiday time? These are general questions. We are not talking about our life anymore, okay? These are talking about your country. We're talking about companies. We're talking about people. Is it important to travel? I think it's important for most people to travel. They need time to relax. Notice I'm talking about they, workers, employees, men, women, boys, girls. I am not talking about my life anymore. Do people in your country travel more now? Do people in your country, okay? How do you think travel might change in the future? There's different kinds of part 3 questions. In another video, we will talk more about those part 3 questions. In part 3, you should understand the question. Here's a little trick about part 3. It's different than part 1. Remember, part 1, if there's a word you do not understand, the examiner will help you understand that word. Part 3 is different. Part 3, the questions are a little bit... the questions are a little bit, let me write it down, tricky in part 3. They're a little bit tricky. That means they're a little bit hard to, they're sometimes hard to understand. The questions are a little bit hard to understand, okay? If you do not understand the question, that's normal, it's okay. You can ask the examiner to clarify. Can you clarify that? You can, if you hear the question and you don't understand the question, don't panic, don't be afraid. Just say, I'm sorry, can you explain that for me? Can you clarify that for me? That's okay. You should speak in general terms, okay? You should be speaking in general terms. For example, do you think holidays are important for people? Oh, yes, I think they're very, very important for me because I get very stressed out at work and I need time to travel sometimes. No. You can use the same answer, but talk about other people. Yes, I think holidays are very important because people get stressed out at work. People work all the time, 5 days a week, 44 hours a week. That's a long time. People need time to relax. They should have more holiday time. You should never give a memorized answer. Don't answer if you do not understand the question. And you never should give an answer if you don't have the answer, the details, the examples, and the reasons for it. Always just include that, okay? All right, well, this has been an overview for parts 1, 2, and 3, the whole speaking section. I hope it was useful for you. We will go into a lot more speaking in other videos. I will go more into part 1, more into part 2, more into part 3. This is just to help you understand the whole speaking section, what happens on it. But we will have more time later to go into details for part 1, details for part 2, and details for part 3. So if you do have any questions, please just drop them in the comments, and I'm happy to answer your questions there. So thank you for tuning into this Everything IELTS video. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next installment.